Hi, welcome to Main Street Macro. I'm Neela Richardson. Last week, we got a lot of important news on the economy. First, that really important jobs report came out. But second, the Fed met to raise interest rates yet again. So, for this Main Street Macro, I thought it would be great to give you the play by play of the Fed's press conference and the three ways that the Fed's strategy to tackle inflation is a lot like football. Here's the first way. The Fed's playbook doesn't change very much, but it's always facing a new opponent. That's right. The Fed basically reins in inflation by raising interest rates, and it's done so six times so far. Four of those times have been really aggressive rate hikes by a three-fourths of a percentage point climb each time. Now, even though the Fed's playbook is pretty standard. I mean, they may do a couple of new things here and there, but rate hikes are the main play. The opponent is always different. And the Fed hasn't faced an opponent this formidable in the form of inflation in 40 years, because that's the last time that the inflation rate has been this high. The CPI, 8.2%. So there is still some uncertainty by the Fed on whether its standard playbook will actually take down inflation in the next year, or will it take longer? Now, the second reason that the Fed policy and its strategy is a lot like football is that there's both a running game and a passing game. So, with the last four moves, we've seen a long pass by the Fed in terms of hiking interest rates. They've done big jumps instead of little plays. But as the closer we get to the Fed's goal of a 2% inflation target, the more likely you'll see them stop passing the ball a long ways and start running the ball maybe a shorter distance so they can control the play a little bit more. And that's exactly what Powell hinted at in last week's press conference, that they would move from these three-quarters percentage point increases to something smaller and more manageable for the Fed. Now, the last way that the Fed policy is a lot like football is that sometimes they're going to have to call an audible. Now, for those of you who don't know, an audible is when the quarterback sees how the defense is lined up on the field and then changes the play. Well, in this analogy, the defense that the Fed is really up against right now is the labor market. It's really tight, it's really strong, and ADP data showed that wages are still elevated, rising 7.7% for workers who are in the same job over the last 12 months. In order for the Fed to get inflation down, it's got to keep wages under control. And so it may have to see how the labor market responds to these Fed interest rate hikes before it really calls the play. So that means calling that audible. You know, the Fed is in it for the long run. They're playing the long game, and the goalposts haven't changed. It's really to get inflation down. And while each of us may have their own favorite football team, I've recently become really excited about the Buffalo Bills. All of us can get behind a winning strategy for the Fed to finally defeat inflation. Thanks for watching the Main Street Macro. For more information on the week ahead, please go to adpri.org.